Hi everyone, it is Diana and I am your on-call therapist, and we are going to get into a really fun topic today. So we talk about a lot of heavy things and I address a lot of your questions that are really kind of intense and deep, and this is a little bit different one. So it's going to be a little bit more kind of that sort of real conversation that you would maybe have with a friend, right? So it's going to kind of cross the line of friend and therapist. But this is something that I get from my friends and that I get from clients in different ways sometimes, but I think it's a cool thing to address. So we're going to talk about that. So I want to talk about something that probably every woman has run into, every person has probably run into, which is texting someone and talking to someone that you really shouldn't be talking to anymore. And this is that situation where you know that, or you know that you shouldn't be talking to them. Maybe you broke up with them and you know that's not a good relationship for you. Maybe they're just not showing interest and you really want to kind of further something with them, but they're not kind of giving a lot back to you. So you kind of feel that need and almost that urge to keep contacting them and texting them, and you can kind of feel it like you're fighting it, right? Or debating it or trying to talk yourself out of it. So I get this kind of thing a lot with my friends and even with my sisters. With clients, sometimes it's more, the stakes are higher. Maybe it's that they're trying to work through something with their partner or working through a divorce or something like that. But I get it with my friends and sisters as well in a different way, right? Like they'll send me a message and say, hey, like I'm thinking about sending this. What do you think? Like, what would you change? And I will literally edit it and change it and take things out or add things in and send it back and say, like, this is what I would say. So many of you out there have probably received a Diana edited message and you don't even know it. But really, though, we do this, right? We reread things, we edit things, we send it to our friends, we debate it. And then if we do send it, sometimes we send it and immediately it's that gut-dropping feeling of like, I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe that feeling comes when time is sort of ticking by and they're not responding. Maybe you can see that they've read it, but they're still not responding. And then you go into those negative thoughts and those self-destructive thoughts, and now you're clear over here and you're just feeling awful, and it's not a pleasant situation, right? So I want to address that today. I want to talk about why this happens, understand why that struggle is so hard, and then we're going to fix it. So I'm going to give you some real solutions and ways to deal with this and better handle the situation and just feel better about yourself and feel like you're really being true to yourself and doing the best thing for you. So we are going to get into that today. But before we do, please subscribe to my channel. I'm putting out new videos every week to help you and to help you feel better. So let's get into this. Why do we do this? Why do I have to edit my friend's video, or my friend's messages, or my sister's messages, or my client's messages, or tell them not to say that, or help them not to say anything at all, which is sometimes really hard. When someone is trying not to send a message, it's so hard for them not to do that. So why is that? And what kind of things do I do when I edit these messages? So I was thinking about this, and really a lot of the edits that I do are usually adding in more confidence in some way or another. So I take out some of the fluff or the ways that you're trying to appease them or over-explain something, and I help you get more direct and more confident in kind of addressing what is best for you and what you kind of need to be addressing. So the truth is that you have value, and you have value that they want, likely, right? If you don't have value that they want, then why are you messaging them? Okay, so if you are messaging someone that doesn't appreciate you, doesn't see your worth, doesn't actually value you, then stop. Stop right now, message me, we will work through it, but just stop. You have to stop giving your time and your energy to someone who does not appreciate you. So how many of you are guilty of this or know of someone who is stuck with a partner who they shouldn't have, right? Why does that happen so often? Why does it happen so often that we stick with people or with situations that we know aren't good for us and maybe really aren't good for us? Why does that happen so often, and why is it so hard? Now, particularly for women, but obviously it happens to everyone, but particularly with women, it seems like in so many ways we've made a lot of progress, but there often are these themes that come up that are kind of the sort of underlying thing of, I need them to complete me, right? We don't say that, but that seems to come out a lot. Or I'm really not actually good enough, or I have to make this work or else. So, or else what, right? Why are we so scared of heartbreak and pain and standing up for ourselves and being alone that we stay in situations that aren't good for us, or we never really lean in and sort of take the risk and be vulnerable in a way that would actually make it work? So we're leaning in, but we're not. It's such a complicated and difficult situation. So the leaning in and being more vulnerable is a totally different kind of topic that I will shoot more videos on and really dive into another time. But I want to get back to this kind of thing that we've been talking through, which is why we have such a hard time holding that boundary and not talking to people that we know we shouldn't talk to. So what are some solutions? We can probably agree that this happens and this happens to you, but how do you not do it? Because it seems that a lot of people know that they shouldn't do it and they try to not do it, but then it ends up happening and they end up kind of feeling bad about it and going down that rabbit hole. So what can you do? What are some solutions? So a really common solution that I use is text me, right? Message me or message your coach or your, accountability partner or even a friend, and message them instead of reaching out to this person that you know you shouldn't. Now, I think it's really helpful to have a friend and a professional that you can lean on. I think both of those are really important because a friend can be there for you more maybe, or kind of understand it on a really personal level, and you can text them at 4 in the morning and maybe get a response. So that's really helpful to have. It's also helpful to have a professional that can help you work through it, because a friend will likely be all on your side and be totally supportive and rally behind you, but that may not be good all the time. So sometimes it's helpful to have a professional that can sort of talk you through what's going on more and maybe challenge you a little bit more. So I think it's helpful to have both. So if someone's going through a really hard time, like I have a guy right now who just got broken up with and he's heartbroken, and the woman doesn't want him to talk to her anymore, and he's having such a hard time with it, and he wants to message her all the time, and he really struggles not to do that, and there's a lot underneath that. He hasn't got closure for himself yet. It's still bringing up a lot of stuff for him. So he'll kind of draft messages that he wants to send to her, and he'll send them to me, and we'll process through it, and we'll work through like what the need is there and what is coming up for him and what he can do to work through that instead of messaging her. Because messaging her isn't getting him actually that closure or what he wants, and it's stepping over the boundary that she set. So that's not good or healthy for either of them. But there's a lot of stuff that's coming up that he needs to process through still. So that's kind of how we're working through that, and that can be really helpful. So if you're feeling that urge to text someone that you know you shouldn't, talk to someone else about it. Reach out to someone else about it, whether that's a friend or a professional or both. So that can be really helpful. And kind of in that similar way that I do for people, you can also ask yourself some questions. So when you have that urge come up, some questions that I find really helpful to look at and to process through and to answer are checking in with how you're feeling. So write down, how am I feeling now? Really honestly check in with yourself and think, how am I feeling now? And write that down. Then look at, what do I want to get from this interaction? What am I looking for? What do I want to happen? What am I seeking? What do I need? And once you identify that, you can look at, is there another way for me to meet that need? Is there a way for me to meet my own need here, instead of look for this external validation or external whatever it is that's probably not going to go the way I want it to go? How can I actually meet my own need and get that met? So maybe you're feeling really lonely. What you identify is that, man, I'm lonely and I'm sad. So maybe in that case, you can reach out to a friend who you know will be there for you. Maybe you're feeling really bad about yourself and you're just looking for some validation and you're looking to kind of feel better. And maybe then you can look for things that can build you up and you can process through that emotion. So those things are actually solving the root problem that's coming up for you and dealing with it in a real way, instead of band-aiding it and probably making it worse, because this person's probably not going to respond. They're not going to respond in the way you want them to, or they're going to take you down this path that you already know isn't good for you. So doing this and answering these questions and checking in will actually help you feel better, and it will relieve some of that root issue and that root problem that keeps you from really feeling better and keeps you in these interactions and reaching out to these people that aren't healthy for you. So this is a way to do that and to start to stand up for yourself and to really reach out to the right people that are good for you, because we often get stuck in cycles where we keep forming relationships with people who aren't good for us, right? So that's a really important way. So check in with how you're feeling, what you want from that interaction, and how you can meet that need and get that in a different way. So check in with yourself on those things. Another helpful thing to do is write down why you shouldn't text them or why you shouldn't reach out to them. Kind of process through and go through and remind yourself why you shouldn't. Because sometimes when we are just caught up in that urge or that need is coming up and we want to meet that, then we're running with that and we're not thinking about, or we're pushing away the reasons why we shouldn't. So go back and write down the reasons why you shouldn't. And sometimes I have people write those out when they're in a good space, in a really healthy space, almost like a reminder to yourself, like, hey, I know you're going to want to message them, but this is why you shouldn't. And I write a note for yourself in your own language that you can go back to when you're feeling that and remind yourself, okay, yeah, this is why I'm not reaching out to them. This is why that's not good for me. This is why I'm not doing that. This is why I need to choose me, and I need to do this and hold this boundary for me to feel better and for me to choose myself, for me to be more healthy. So remind yourself of that. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I think the writing a message to yourself to read is a really good one. You can also kind of make a pros and cons list. You can also just write out, like, this is why I'm not messaging them, or why I shouldn't. So those things can be really helpful as well. As can affirmations. So I love affirmations. If you've watched some of my other videos, you may be sick of me talking about affirmations, because I love them and I think they are such a powerful way to cope and really a helpful solution. So in this way, you can say affirmations, you can read affirmations, and they can build you up in those ways that maybe you've already identified you're feeling bad about. Or they can kind of just make you feel a little better and help you feel a little bit stronger. So those are really powerful. So those can be things like, I am enough, right? Just saying, I am enough, or I love myself. Reaffirming that you love yourself, even if you don't. Saying that, I love myself. I choose to stand up for myself. I am worthy. Right? Those are really powerful things to say and to reaffirm to yourself when you're feeling down and you're feeling weak or you're feeling those different emotions that are hard to deal with. Going through and saying, I am worthy, right? Things like, this is painful now, but I am growing. I am healing. I will get through this. So those are really powerful and really simple. Reaffirming to yourself that I can do this. This is really hard and I'm struggling and I feel bad, but I will get through this. I can do this. So try saying those things when you're feeling down, or reading those things, or having those things ready on your phone to go through and remind yourself that really you are okay and you will get through this. And sometimes I have people create Pinterest boards or create folders in their phone where those are there. I've also mentioned in another video that I've even had people make playlists and music to remind themselves of why they're not getting back with that person. Because music can be really powerful and it can remind you of why you're not going down that path and give you strength to choose a different path and hold that boundary. So saying affirmations, listening to uplifting music, reading through positive things like this can really help. So that is one really powerful way. The last kind of strategy that I'll address here is to do something else. Do something different. And that's the same for a lot of things, right? If we're trying to resist doing something, but it's hard, these are all strategies that we can use for that. But do something else. Put time in between texting them. Put some time in there between actually doing it. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm going to go do this for an hour and then I'll revisit this if that thought is still there. So it's really helpful to go to the gym or meditate, breathe, even watch Netflix, right? Do anything just to interrupt the pattern of feeling pain, feeling emotion, thinking that you need to reach out to them. When that comes up, interrupt the pattern of feeling that and then doing it, acting on it, and doing something else. So if you do something else, you're interrupting that. You're putting something else in between the normal pattern of feeling pain, reaching out. Instead, you feel pain and you go do something else. You breathe through it, you meditate, or if that's too hard or that's not your thing, you talk to someone, you watch a movie, you go outside, you do anything just to interrupt that. So instead of kind of band-aiding or following your normal pattern, you reach out to someone else that can actually help you, or you do anything to interrupt it. So you can also at that point draft that message that you want to send and not send it, or send it to someone else like we talked about, right? That's getting that out but not acting on it. But you can't send it. Sometimes people will draft that message and with the intention of not sending it, and then they end up sending it, right? So those are really helpful solutions when you're feeling those things and you shouldn't act on them. Try some and see what you think. Again, those are texting someone else, texting a professional, texting a friend, checking in with yourself, answering those questions about how you're feeling and what's going on with you, learning to meet your needs in another way, writing down the reasons why you shouldn't text them or message them, say affirmations that really build you up and remind you that you're okay and it's hard, but you'll get through this. And doing something else instead of acting on that, doing something different. Those are all really helpful ways to interrupt that and to change that pattern. And those are all ways to help you stand more in your truth, right? In what's good for you, really, in the long run. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it because it's so hard and it's so painful, but that's really the way that you're choosing yourself and you're choosing to stand up for you and be true to you and choose to give your energy to people who deserve it and not people who you know aren't good for you, and relationships that you know aren't good for you. And it's not easy and it's not simple. It's one of the hardest things to do because there's probably a big part of you that really cares about them still, and those emotions will come up, and it's such a hard thing to work through. And that's why a lot of these solutions are building you up and building back up your confidence and your self-esteem so you can stand up for yourself and you can say, no, like, this isn't good for me, and I'm going to act on and give more energy to what is good for me. And I am going to do what I need to do to move forward in a healthy way. So I hope that helps. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'm happy to help, happy to talk through some of this. And please subscribe to my channel. Thanks, guys.